interesting and historical facts for you about the Crusades. Fact number 1. As always, I cannot guarantee that any of these facts are actually true or accurate. Okay, let's get started. The Crusades were a series of religious wars initiated and sometimes conducted by the Roman Catholic Church in the medieval period. There were at least 8 Crusades, beginning in the late 11th century and ending in the late 16th century. The origins of the Crusades lay in the conquering of the Holy Land by the Muslim Seljuk Empire after their defeat of the Byzantines. Powerful Christians in Western Europe decided to launch the First Crusade to reclaim the land. Although the Crusades are often seen as a struggle between Christians and Muslims, they involved clashes with other communities as well, especially the Jews and pagans. In 1095, Pope Urban II declared the First Crusade when Byzantine Emperor Alexius I requested military support from the Roman Catholic Church in his conflict with the Turks. The word Crusades wasn't used when the wars first started. Sanctioned by the Church, the Crusades were considered military expeditions. The First Crusade was preceded by the People's Crusade of 1096. It was led by Peter the Hermit and was comprised of incompetent peasants who were fleeing drought, famine, and disease in their homeland. The root of the word Crusades goes back to the 16th century French word croisade, which essentially means marked with the cross. During the People's Crusade, the Crusaders massacred an estimated 1/4 to 1/3 of the Jewish population along the Rhine River in France and Germany. Therefore, these events subsequently earned the name the Rhineland Massacre. During the medieval ages, most Europeans were Catholics, so many people associate the Crusades with them. However, the Catholic Crusaders were often joined by members of the Eastern Orthodox Church, Armenian Christians, Russian Christians, and Greek Christians. Earlier words used for the Crusades were "eider," which means journey, and "peregrinatio," or pilgrimage. According to a theory, Christopher Columbus might have been a crusader. The theory states that when Columbus exploited the regions of the Caribbean, he was actually accumulating funds to finance a new crusade. Tafurs were an infamous division of the Crusaders who had taken an oath of poverty. Tafurs translates to beggars. They did not have any possessions and ate only grass and roots. According to reports, they also indulged in cannibalism. According to the Gesta Francorum Chronicle, Deus Vult, or God Wills It, was the battle cry of the First Crusade. It subsequently became the battle cry for various other crusades as well. The First Crusade was the only successful crusade. An interesting fact about the Fourth Crusade is that it targeted a Christian city called Zara. Due to the failure of the previous crusades, Pope Innocent III declared this new one. The Children's Crusade of 1212 consisted of a huge group of 30,000 young adults and children who took the Crusaders' vow and set out to reclaim the Holy Land. However, this was not an official crusade and was not sanctioned by the Pope. The First Crusade was initiated for taking back the Holy Land of Jerusalem, and the Crusaders were successful in their campaign. A major reason for this was that during that time the Muslims were disunited and were highly suspicious of each other. Within 2 years, about 35,000 men gathered for the Fourth Crusade. The Fourth Crusade was instrumental in creating a strong separation between Catholics and Orthodox Christians. The thousands of peasants that joined the First Crusade were looked down upon and derided in contemporaneous writings. Anna Komnena, daughter of the Byzantine Emperor Alexius I Komnenos, wrote an account of the First Crusade that is used by historians today. The Children's Crusade of 1212 was a failure. None of the young adults and children ever made it to Jerusalem. Frederick I, a leader in the Crusades, died while attempting to swim a stream. To fund the Fourth Crusade, the Crusaders were ordered to plunder the city of Zara for its riches. It had revolted against Venetian rule in 1183 and declared itself part of the Kingdom of Hungary. The Muslim leader Saladin captured Jerusalem and stalemated the efforts of the Third Crusade. The French King Philip IV, driven by his interest in uniting the crusading orders, arranged the suppression and then the destruction of the Knights Templar. The military technology of Greek fire was used very effectively to defend Constantinople against Muslim assault. Greek fire launched from tubes mounted on the prows of Greek ships, and they destroyed the Arab fleet attacking Constantinople in 673. Baybars I was a Mamluk sultan that ruled from 1260 to 1277 and who was noted for his military campaigns against the Crusaders. He was poisoned to death when he drank from a cup intended for someone else. During the Crusader period, medical knowledge was highly valued and constituted one of the crucial points of contact between Eastern and Western cultures. The Seventh Crusade, led and largely financed by King Louis IX of France, was one of the most logistically sophisticated expeditions to the East. While it held great promise at the start, it ended in failure. The Crusades often used the rhetoric of divine confirmation. Whenever the Crusades experienced a military victory on the battlefield, it was used to support the idea that they were the sacred people shined down upon by God. Crusades had to be sanctioned by the Pope, and they were officially used to conduct battle on groups deemed to be enemies of Christians. The motivation for the Crusades wasn't simply religious. They were often conducted for political and economic reasons as well. Popes often saw crusades as ways to extend their imperial reach, and knights saw a way to distinguish themselves outside of the chaotic density of Western Europe. Crusaders were often promised absolution from purgatory in the afterlife. After the First Crusade led to the proclamation of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem, Crusader states were set up in the Middle East: the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Edessa, the Principality of Antioch, and the County of Tripoli. Crusaders were usually landless nobles or peasants who were in search of creating a future for themselves by seizing land from their Muslim enemies. The fall of Aleppo and Edessa would lead to the Second Crusade. The Third Crusade was led by King Richard the Lionheart of England. He was unable to retake Jerusalem, but was able to negotiate an agreement with his rival Sultan Saladin, allowing Christians to pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Thanks to centuries of war and further fragmentation of the region, the ruins left by the Crusades helped to pave the way for the Mongol invasion in the mid-13th century. Famous today for their secrecy and wealth, the Knights of Templar were among the most skilled fighters of the Crusades. They built a vast, innovative economic infrastructure that would be a precursor to early banking. The Sixth Crusade into 1228, led by Emperor Frederick II, was the first official crusade to not have a papal blessing, as the emperor was excommunicated by Pope Gregory IX. Through the Crusades, Islamic and Christian cultures mixed. This interaction precipitated the Renaissance and likely led to the reintroduction of ancient Greek and Roman texts to Europe. During the Crusades, the Islamic world referred to the Crusaders as the Franks and considered them a form of barbarians due to their violence. They now refer to the Crusades as campaigns of the cross. The Indulgence and the Desensitization of the Papacy during the Crusades helped launch the Reformation and Counter-Reformation in the 15th century. Reformers claimed the Crusades were a manifestation of the evil of the Papacy. There is no way of knowing exactly how many died as a result of the Crusades, but estimates range from 1 million all the way to 3 million people. The symbol of the Crusaders was a red cross. Soldiers wore it on their clothing and armor, and it was also used on flags and banners. As Crusaders were made to fall back to Europe, they were able to reap great benefits from the failed campaigns. As a result of constant demand of supplies in war, transportation and routes were developed. Manufacturing also improved, and production of various supplies started. Most historians consider the sermon preached by Pope Urban II at Clermont-Ferrand in November 1095 to have been the spark that fueled a wave of military campaigns to wrest the Holy Land from Muslim control. At the core of the motivation for the First Crusade was a desire for access to shrines associated with the life and ministry of Jesus. Above all, this crusade aimed to reclaim the Holy Sepulchre, the church in Jerusalem said to contain the tomb of Christ. The Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem, established by the First Crusaders, boasted 15 cathedral churches. The Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, for example, became the seat of a Western Christian bishop in 1110. The Second Crusade, championed by the Cistercian abbot Bernard of Clairvaux, attempted to take Damascus in Syria. The campaign was a dismal failure because the Muslims had regrouped. When the Muslim forces of Saladin reclaimed Jerusalem during the Second Crusade, they marveled at how the Crusaders had beautified it. The Crusades set the stage for several religious knightly military orders, including the Knights Templar, the Teutonic Knights, and the Hospitallers. These groups defended the Holy Land and protected pilgrims traveling to and from the region. The Children's Crusade of 1212 was led by a young man named Nicholas, who said he had received divine instruction to march toward the Holy Land. And that's all for today. Let me know in the comments if you know for a fact something I said isn't right. And also, what topic would you like to hear more about? Let me know, and we'll face the facts together.